Hello everyone, and welcome back to another instalment of the Dead podcast, episode 19 now, blank. We've gone up another year, but in a week, so we're aging quite fast.
Yeah, we're going to be old men by the time this finishes. 19, almost 20, it's kind of crazy. Maybe we'll get into the triple digits one day, potentially.
Well, you hope so.
Hopefully, yeah, I was going to say hopefully. That would be cool to get there. Another week of Deadlock at home.
Yep.
Can't play with my friends anymore. Banned, apparently. Too high elo. I'm not that high. I'm pretty bad at the game, in fact. So that sucks. Didn't like that.
We can talk about this, because this actually is probably one of the bigger bits of news that's happened this week, right? So out of the blue, Valve ship an update that starts to fragment what the max elo you can queue with is, makes it a bit more aggressive. But in that same update, somehow they broke the matchmaking system so that for 98% of people, if they won or lost a game, it just jumped their accounts to a turn of 6. For about 45 minutes, this was going on.
Yeah.
So obviously there was a large portion of the community that was just like, I've just lost a game as Dynamo and I am now a turn of 6 from Initiate. What is happening?
I am the E6 gamer.
Yeah, which... I don't know, bro. Again, like the whole time, whenever we have these conversations, we always say like, they should probably reset the ranks at some point. We should probably maybe get rid of the whole system in general. Go back to just quick play. Here's a crazy one for you, right? I'm brainstorming an idea for this new type of
in the nighttime
gameplay system, right? So imagine this. Imagine I've got some sort of computer that analyzes your score per minute, your souls per minute, if you will, your kills, deaths, assists, healing, all of these like factors, right? Win rate, kind of. I take all this in, and then what I do is I use that to curate a matchmaking pool. That's what I was going to call it, a matchmaking pool of other players with similar statistical, ins and outs, so that I can put you and each player on your team in what should be a fair game. Now, there's no badges or numbers. It's all just hidden. And I call that matchmaking. And we could just call that quick play. You could click quick play. It looks at those stats, puts you in. What do you think about that?
We could... You could do like a little abbreviation for it as well. You call it MM.
That'd there you go. Cool. See?
Yeah.
Right.
That's got a nice ring to it, actually.
And then we can go deeper than that as well, because you could even have, solo matchmaking or...
solo MM.
Team
SMM.
matchmaking. Yeah, exactly,
TMM.
right? Or duo matchmaking. That's what I've been thinking. Why don't we just do that? Because at this point, it's all fake anyway. It's all fake anyway. And now you can't even play with your friends. Everyone's getting boosted to a turn of 6. I feel like it's just gotten worse. I actually also feel like the matchmaking itself... This has started off quite an aggressive episode, but I feel like the matchmaking itself's gotten worse as well. I feel like the game's been really poo recently. Bad games.
Yeah. I mean, the game is fun. The game's still fun.
It's not the game.
The game is fun.
But the games.
The games have been pretty poo. I think the main issue we're having in our games is that if anyone loses their lane, it's usually because it's like a massive miss. So I was thinking about this. Yeah. In most of the games that we lose, and they feel bad, I leave the game afterwards and I just sadly eat a banana. I gotta get the fruit in somewhere.
Potassium.
Oh, potassium. Very good. Yellow goodness. Usually that's what I do afterwards. And it's bad because the way I see it is that those games where we lose really horribly are usually because of a massive mismatch in the skill between the duo lane that they're up against. Like that duo lane crushes that lane so hard that they're already the walker. And I don't think it's like there is an issue. I want to talk about teleporters later. But again, we'll take that out of the equation for now. But you can't really help that lane in the first place. So that mismatch becomes grossly overblown when those two players start roaming other lanes. And the two players that got destroyed are trying to make up for souls, which they can't do very quickly because the jungle actually doesn't give you a huge amount of souls. You want to stay in lane as much as possible. So you're kind of just on a downward spiral at that point. It's hard. Again, I think that they made that change for the matchmaking where it's like you can only matchmake in a certain region in between ranks. In theory, good change. But I don't think it fixes the underlying problem at all. In theory, good change. In context, bad change.
It's also, I think you need to be more transparent with it, where it's like, I think in Counter-Strike, they kind of had the same thing for a while back with the old matchmaking system of CSGO, where it'd be like, if you are global elite, you could queue with people up to, say, like, Legendary Eagle, but then if they're like DMG and below, maybe they're too far out of your skill bracket, 'cause it's like 4 or 5 ranks or something.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, you could literally have it at least the leeway of maybe, say, if you're Eternus, you can queue down to Phantom, or if you're Phantom, you can queue down to whatever. So at least you know it's like, oh, I have these 3 ranks,
I think right now
1
it's
to
like,
6.
I think it's just.
I think it's one rank.
I think it's a single rank right now.
Yeah, because it's like if you're Archon, you can queue with the rank above that, but if you're Emissary 6, you can't queue with them. No, I think is how it works. So it's like it's one ranking group, and the problem is like one ranking group in Deadlock doesn't actually mean anything. Like,
it's really minimal.
None of the elo really means anything, but that especially is way worse because it's so easy to go from like on a given day you could be an Archon 2 and an Emissary 6 within those games that day because it does just go like promoted, demoted, promoted, promoted, demoted. Like it just does what it wants.
Yeah, because right now the way the ranking system works, I think, is that if you've been playing for a long time, there is somewhat of a computer in the background that's going, you kind of belong in Oracle. You're a little Oracle scrub. Okay, stay there. And you don't really move in that position. I've been in like Oracle 5 to 3. That's my playground right now. Some of you in the comments, you probably say you deserve that, right? That's where your skill range lies. You're winning one, you're losing one. Maybe you're just destined to stay there forever. And fair enough to you, honestly. But I do think that it comes to a point where, I have won enough games where I feel like I should be promoted, and then I lose a couple, then sure, some of my elo goes off, and I can win another 3 streak, and then I'll go up slowly but surely. Right now, everything feels so arbitrary. I think that's the problem I'm having with it. It's like you have other games where I think CS2 not a terrible idea, honestly. I mean, I don't like it personally, but I think it's more transparent with the numbering system, where it's like you gain like a number every time. It's like you go up by 50. You can clearly see how you're ranking up. Other games in MOBAs typically use like a placement system where it's like you rank up to a certain level, then you're in your placements, you win enough of those placements, you go to the next rank. Like, there's none of that right now in Deadlock, which, again, I think we just need to get rid of ranks entirely until it's fixed.
Because it's pointless. It's pointless now. Like, it had a point. There was like that sweet spot of like a month and a bit where it was actually really good, where each week you got your new rank, so you grind out games in that rank, which I thought was a good system. I thought they kind of nailed it. I know some people are like, oh, this is too short or too long or whatever, like give me a rank up more frequently. But I thought it was good because then it was like, doesn't matter if you go in, you suck. But the game knows, like, okay, he's lost 10 games in a row. He's clearly not
probably cut him. Yeah.
He's not meant to be here. So move him down, see how he does in this next rank. Or like, oh, he's won every game. He's played 45 games this week. Maybe bump him up. Yeah. And that was cool because you felt tangibly like each week. It was also kind of exciting where every member of the community was like, oh, what rank did you get this week? And you all kind of checked together and it felt cool. And then obviously it was like, okay, we're shutting down ranked. We're making it one queue. They should have just binned off ranks. They should have said, thanks for testing the ranking system. We'll bring it back later. Because the problem you now have is you alienate a large portion of the community where, like, the idea of the fake elo, even if you mentally understand that none of this is real, it's not real, it still makes you upset where it's like, where's my elo gone? Oh, this guy's throwing my games. I can't play with you because you're bad. I can't even play with you now because the game thinks you're bad. You know, it's like... issues like that where you alienate so many people. It's hard enough to get into Deadlock as it is. Like, you've got to find a friend that has it, ask him for an invite, hope you get in. Then maybe you can't even play with a friend. Are you going to play on your own? Especially if he's like, I don't know, emissary or something. You've got to queue the whole way up. It might take you a month. You never know. Yeah. I feel like you just got to bin it off. Just do matchmaking. Do like purely dedicated player to player specific elo as fair as you can get it matchmaking, where it's like, okay, we got one really good player on this team, one really good player on that team, couple average skill players. Maybe this guy's a noob, put him in a lane with this guy.
Yeah.
Balance it out, and then try and keep the games as close as you can get. But that would at least make it more fair, where I feel like people would get games quicker. You could balance it a little bit more. You could give brand new players a curated experience where they're only playing against new players, not Smurfs. Because that's the other thing they've done with this. Like, I'm going to be real. The percentage of players that are probably like, oh, well, I can't play with my friends anymore. I'm going to go make a Smurf. That's going to be skyrocketing because that's what you do inadvertently with this change.
Yeah, stuff. I mean, that is definitely going to be something that's going to happen throughout the entirety of Deadlock at the moment. If you can't, a lot of people really enjoy playing with their friends. If they can't, then let's find a solution to how we can, which will happen, will cause problems in the future. And I'll be real with Valve, I think it's a tough problem to have, because I think they know the correct solution here would be, honestly, get rid of ranks and create a matchmaking system similar to what you described, Jacky. But so many people are on that hype and on that train of number and medal make me feel good, make me want to play more. And to all of you as well out there, I'm a level with you. Fair play. I get it. Number do make me feel good. My monkey brain does get excited when I see a rank up. But I don't think it's healthy for the game right now. And I think I argued quite a bit for ranked back in the day, and I think I made a mistake by doing that. I think if ranked came later and was more fleshed out, like I said, with a placement system, with a point system, with your medals on top, it would be cool. But as it is right now, it's just so randomized. I don't know how they go about it.
I remember telling you at the time, but it's quite funny because obviously we had the duality where sometimes we agree on things, sometimes we disagree, like, we're separate people with this stuff. But I remember with that, I was always like, no, it's a bad idea. Like, you shouldn't put ranked in. And it's funny how many people were like, I want ranked. But now they have all said, like, oh, actually, like, yeah, I kind of wish we never got it, because it's one of those things where it was fun for that brief period, but the after effects after obviously the test of ranked was scrapped and Valve realized, okay, player numbers aren't actually going up as rapidly as they were previously, so we're having issues with the matchmaking, we've got to gut it. Now we're left with something not quite as good as either, and I think that's the problem, is you have no clear definitive way to go like, I'm going to play a casual quick game of Deadlock, I'm going to play Stomp Dynamo and just mess around, that's fine, because it's not like, you know what I mean, I'm playing with some friends. It feels like you kind of have to win every game, and then to level that even more arbitrarily, you've got the set, like the extra competitive setting. So it's
I don't
like
think anyone uses that.
No, apparently, well, that's the thing. It's like there's a small percentage where like people do, but it's like Eternus, like on the upper end, everyone's got it turned on, never have it turned off. So then it's like you're just further fragmenting the matchmaking system within the matchmaking system.
Honestly, for those guys that actually are using the extra competitive setting, technically they're doing the right thing. Yeah? And people should follow suit on that. If you want an extra competitive game, you should turn that setting on. It exists for you. I don't know if people have forgotten about it, but if you want to rank up and you want to do better, like actually, if you actually want to rank up, you do want to click that button, because you can get like-minded people on your team who are wanting to play to the best of their ability, and you don't really have any legs to stand on if you go into a match with that turned off and flame people for doing stuff wrong. Like, at the end of the day, those people are just trying to play, have fun. Otherwise, we'd have also clicked that button and gone into extra competitive. I'd be communicating all the time, pinging, be proper try hard, play 2 games and burnt out after that, and be like, I've played my 2 extra comp games today, I've had fun, I've ranked up a little bit, I'm going to leave it there for the day. That's fine. But yeah, that button just doesn't get used. Because realistically, what that should be is just on the main page where it says play Deadlock or play competitive. That's what it should be.
That's it.
It should just split those queues.
Yeah.
Because again,
that's
it's just
the problem.
It's more effort. Like, I don't see how. I just don't understand why that would be a difficult thing to implement.
Well, I
Maybe I'm
don't
thinking
think it's
too
a
hard
matter
into
of
it.
it like being difficult because they've had it before and it existed and they did it and they tested it and they had their own unique way of doing it, right? Where like you remember rightly, it was hours. It was like set hours you could play ranked and it was all done that way with the games. You'd have to play a minimum of 10, more than that, whatever. So they know how to do it and they can certainly separate all the cues. I think it's just more. I don't know. I think in their minds at this point, it's the solution that keeps everyone happy.
Yeah.
Because technically, it doesn't show you the MMR or ranking up unless you click the buttons to see it. That's in the options menu. So not everyone will know. So they might not even realize they're playing ranked, but there only is ranked. There isn't anything else in the game, technically. And then for those people, they've still got their number and it goes up and down. So maybe they're thinking like psychologically, we're appealing to both audiences in kind of a roundabout way.
Everyone's kind of happy.
Yeah, but I think in fact, in reality, it's kind of the knock-on effect that's worse, where I would say technically, like, it's not going to make a difference if you're like MKLS or someone like that and you're streaming. Yeah, obviously it kind of sounds better if you're being able to market it as, look, these are Eternus 6 games and I'm banging people out, right? The masses that want to aspire to be that are going to be more drawn in and be like, oh, okay, cool, look how good this guy is. I understand, because there's a tangible pipeline. It's not like he's going, I've won 2 lands or I've earned 50,000 in esports earnings. It's a number that makes sense to both of us. I know how good he is. But I think in reality, like, if you actually were able to just give him matchmaking that is more curated, so he's genuinely getting like not maybe some botted boosted Vindicta that's gotten into Eternus 6 because she's been boosted up by her mate who's cheating and then dog at the game. Someone that's actually on the same skill level tangibly based on last hits, denies, kills, everything, you know what I mean?
Dude,
he'd have better quality games.
I have funny sex. So I watch a crap ton of Deadlock. I'm sure this is no surprise to anyone. But I've watched some games at E4 or E5, and some of the players in there seem worse than some of the Phantom games I play.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And some of my Phantom games are absolutely so difficult. So difficult. I don't think I'm a terrible player at the game. In terms of macro and mechanical skill could work on a little bit, but I go into this match and I get banged out. Like, and it's not even close sometimes. I feel like there's nothing I can do in my lanes. And I watch some of these Eternus players in their matches. Some of the lanes they go up against, they're just crushing. And I don't want it to sound big-headed because it's not. It is just a fact that some of those lanes look easier than some of my Phantom games.
Well, it's also that would make sense because if you imagine it in the way where, like, if let's say, for example, right, you've got 1,000 slots in Eternus 6. Obviously, none of this is accurate, but you have 1,000 slots, right?
Yeah.
To get there, if one player gets boosted into it, someone's got to go down to make space for him, right? So someone's got to be D-ranked to give this guy who's been boosted up. And if you're a cheater, where are you going to be boosting someone to? You're not going to boost them to Phantom. You're not going to boost them to Oracle because it's about the status. They're not actually giving a shit like, oh, I want to get slightly better so I can be boosted to a level where it's cool enough that I can still learn.
You could probably boost someone into Eternus, right? In which case, Eternus 1 is probably a good benchmark because that's where it gets tough against actual competent players. But yeah, that's going to throw people back down to Ascendant and Phantom. Yeah.
So in reality, the better players that are being gatekept would be pushed down to those border ranks, your upper end, but not quite Eternus. Because if you're a cheater, you're a booster, you're going to be funneling new accounts up to that ranking. They get it, then they quit the game. But the problem is, there's no rank reset, ever. We've never had a rank reset. So unlike where this happened in Counter-Strike, and it was like, yeah, I'm global elite, but you knew that guy was awful at the game and always suspicious of him, and then they brought in the rank reset, and it's like, haha, look at you, Silver 4. You know? it's like no one's getting taken down. So a lot of those spots will arbitrarily be filled. So you can't go to Eternus. Certain players can't rank up. So it's like, obviously, the cream of the crop that deserve to be there, if they're grinding out those games and playing well enough, they're going to beat those players. Unless they run into cheaters, and then in which case it's kind of a 50-50. Because at least with Deadlock, if you're not outright cheating, maybe you're still beatable. Depends on the cheat. Like, you know what I mean? They won't understand rotations. They won't understand the macro. They don't understand the items. So a great player could still go up against them. It's not as easy if they're aimbot and they're playing Holiday and just left click everyone. You know what I mean? There's variants to it. But that's the problem, is I think, like, yeah, in reality, you probably do have a threshold of better players that can't get there because of the fact that you just have so many people bloating up because they're botting their friends, stuff like that, which is a real thing. It's just you don't notice it as much because they all get up towards the top, then quit the game because they've got nothing to do and they're going to get banged out if they're not playing with their duo that cheats, you know?
Yeah, it's tough. It's real tough right now. I mean, we'll bring it back a little bit because technically Valve has backed themselves into a bit of a corner here where it still came from the community. Like, there was a lot of people, me included, that wanted ranked, and they acquiesced, and then they've created something, like you said, that's going to please everyone. Now, what I'm glad that they're doing, and this is, again, this is a compliment to Valve, because I think this is the wise thing to do, is to just not touch MM right now.
Yeah.
Because what they're pushing at the moment is actual real gameplay changes, map updates, which I think are the things that matter for a game that's unreleased technically. And I think they'll probably come back to MM in the future and try to work around it. I think that's a fair approach and probably one of the best approaches they could take, as opposed to putting development time aside to create that MM system. And we just have to hope in future that it gets addressed. I think one of the easiest ways to do it, like you say, would be to be just a full rank reset, especially after that 10 of 6 shenanigans, like you were saying. Like, a rank reset would make sense. Keep all the same systems in place, but just reset everybody's ranks. That would create excitement. People would be able to grind up again and be able to be placed into your spots. Your MMR would be reset too, which would be nice.
Well, I think you need something like that, at least even with it being a testing period. It would be better, if anything, for these to be a bit more frequent, where I imagine if you're doing this to build up some sort of data set as well, where they can make a better matchmaking system in the future. You've probably got a lot of data based on how these games have been going, where you can look at it and say, okay, these players were put in this ranking, part of the queue, but they were having really bad games. They're losing 15 games in a row. Then they stop playing. So clearly something was wrong here. We need to change how this is done. But at this point, surely it would be more beneficial if you did every time there's a major update, right? Every major update, not every update, but say like when we got 3 lanes, and then if in a month's time we get another major update and they change something big about the game again, reset the ranks each time. Because then you can make everyone do 10 placement games. Because maybe some players were only good in that meta or that map or that whatever. Whereas now you actually make them test again. And then you get better quality games where technically, don't know what the conversion rate anymore of people actually putting feedback on the website is. But if you had better quality games, you could at least maybe get more accurate feedback from players saying, this sucks, this is fun, this isn't,
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot to be done here in terms of updates, and I think with the amount of updates coming through, very fair point to have is to reset the ranks, and like you say, make them more frequent, because it is a different meta. I mean, 3 lanes is a way different meta. This is where we can bring teleporters back into play, because it is so much different from before, where split pushing was a viable strategy. On 4 lanes, we had Wraiths and McGinnises who were kind of specialized in that. Factor, you had Geis as well, who were kind of very good duelists, so you could 1v1 players that came to try and stop you pushing. And again, I think split pushing is a good and important part of any MOBA, personally, because you need to apply pressure on the map, and pressure takes it takes a lot of that stress off your team, right? So you can make better plays. At the moment, there's a lot of 5-man pushes. You have one person that holds down blue lane, that's it, because it's the most important lane to hold on to, and then it's just 5 guys that not the restaurant, but just actual 5 dudes in your lane roaming around just handing out fades, and that's fair enough. And it's causing that issue where the game doesn't really feel like a MOBA anymore, and I think a lot of that could be removed with just like some slight adjustments to teleports, because I do think they're a big problem, specifically the Walker teleporters. I am actually in favor of just removing those entirely. I think if you want to teleport across to green lane, you teleport behind their team, right? You're still getting there to defend the push, but you're not coming in underneath your walker. That feels it feels too forgiving, in my opinion. I like the teleporters on the other side of the map and the shop teleports. I don't like the walk teleports.
I feel like the bigger problem is the lane to lane teleport, like York to Greenwich. That for me feels egregious. Yeah, because I feel like they open way too early in the grand scheme of things.
I agree with that.
And then you have the knock-on effect of it's almost instant. And then if you win a lane, you can get both lanes. And this goes back to obviously what we were talking about earlier, where it's like right now Deadlock is so fickle, where basically if one duo is a mismatch and that duo loses their lane, if you go over to help, you lose your lane. So there's no winning there. You can't help them. You have to. They're spamming their mic, spamming ping, saying, please rotate. And it's like, bro, if I rotate, there's two guys in my lane.
I lose my lane, yeah.
Mine's gone as well. So what's the point? You unlucky, bud. You've got to go down for your sins there. But once they then take that Guardian, they hop in the TP. Suddenly there's 4 guys outnumbering 2. They get another Guardian. Then you've got that group of 4 that come to mid lane, beat you up, and it's all gone. It just feels like that is the flow now, where it's basically
so
win your
repetitive,
lane, TP,
honestly.
go mid, then just like mega push blue, and then the game ends because you're so far ahead. And I think that's the issue you run into. I think teleporters just allow the rich to get richer, and it's worse. It's worse now because at least before it was a solo linking up. Maybe you could 1v2. You might be able to 1v2. You know what I mean? If you were proficient at the game, cool. But even then, it was a trade-off. The fact that it's 2 players, I think that's where it's wrong. The reason it worked is because those outer lanes were solo lanes. So you could TP to both solo lanes. Now they're duo lanes. I don't think we need them. I actually think they're kind of bad.
Yeah, I think having them makes sense. I do like them as a rotational tool to get to the other side of the map. I think I definitely agree with you that they come online too quickly, though.
Yeah.
I think at like a 12 or even 15-minute mark where they
15 minutes
open
would be more reasonable.
Is more reasonable.
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to be locked in laning phase for a little bit longer, but you're going to have to be a bit more creative with your ganks. Like, use the bounce pads a bit more.
Yeah.
Pick characters that can gank from far away.
That's the thing as well. Is I thought that felt like the idea with the bounce pad placements, that mid lane was supposed to be the lane that, if anything, you would fragment one player. One would leave mid, bounce pad over, and maybe you try 1v2 on mid and play passive to defend your blue guardian, right? Instead, you never leave blue because blue is the most important. So why would you ever leave mid lane? If you lose mid lane, it's all screwed anyway. But then the outer lanes just get owned from the TPs. I think that is the issue. Like, if you want to keep them, you've got to make it so much later. Because laning phase is so arbitrary now anyway. It hardly really exists. Like, it's not real, is it?
It exists to an extent up until the point where you get... So I think for a lot of players, like, let's say Oracle, below Oracle, let's call a line there. And even in Oracle, this is tenuous, by the way. But I think in those situations, there are lanes that lose quite frequently at the 4-minute mark. Like, you lose your Guardian at 4 minutes. Laning phase is now over because suddenly you've got 3-man lanes going on. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was even speculating on a case where you have 5-man deadlock teams as opposed to 6 because of the way you've reduced the number of lanes here. You just have a solo mid lane. I know they wanted to get rid of souls in the first place, but it's the only way I can really wrap my head around it without creating protection for guardians. I think if they wanted to experiment with that, that might be something to throw in just as a small update and be like, does it work? Does it not work? I mean, it's difficult.
The problem you have with that, though, is we never should have left 4 lanes then, if we do that. In reality, that's the issue.
It's not 2 solo lanes, and I imagine the solo lane would be mid, but I don't know.
But still, it's tough. If the argument was a large percentage of players didn't want a solo, they're still going to not want a solo, you know?
Yeah.
And if anything, blue lane is the biggest lane. It has the most space, the most verticality, the most symmetry. It's the only symmetrical lane in reality. So if you make that just one solo, I don't think it would work like in
Probably
the same
not.
way, you know? Then again, it would be better to have mid be the duo lane and the outer lanes be solo lanes. But then that's that's what we had and we got rid of. So I think it's one of those where I don't think they would. I think at that point you've kind of decided you want it to be a 6v6 game.
Yeah,
You've
I think
redesigned the whole map around it, you know?
Yeah, it's a weird one. There's problems. I think that the easiest fix for this is probably ways to extend the laning phase or create more defensible guardians where they don't just lose out instantaneously, and ways to stop people from just suddenly leaving their lane. Maybe having two players in a lane gives your guardians some kind of defense, right? You know, it gets a guardian buff for having two players in the lane. You leave a lane, there's one guy there, your guardian's suddenly a little bit weaker, it takes more damage, stuff like that. 15 minutes on teleporters. These all seem like good ideas that could be implemented.
Yeah.
Adjust where TPs are on the map so they don't instantly go to a lane, they go near a lane. I think the most balanced TPs on the map right now are the shop TPs. Those are good ones. They don't instantly put you in an amazing position, but they do give you an ability to rotate on the map quicker. But no one used them other than to escape a lot of times, just because there are better TPs to take on the map and or use a zip boost.
Dude, all you need to just do something where, like, right now, the fact that TPs are even just free is a problem. Even make them cost something. Doesn't have to be much, but like 250 souls, 500 souls, scale over the course of the game. Something where at least then it's more of an incentive of it is a risk. If I TP over to green lane to gank right now, I'm spending 500 souls to do it. That's one laning item I could have bought. We better make sure we kill both of those players and take Guardian, you know? And then I'm going to have to
make those souls back. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Then I'm going to have to walk back because I'm not spending $1,000 to TP both ways. Something like that, because I think it's just innately the idea of them worked, where as much as the map size hasn't changed, the space between lanes and where the actual action is has.
Yeah, I think you're on something there because, again, I think TPs are a cool concept, but they really do break down it in the aspect of a MOBA. Yeah. The whole point, like, I think players at the moment are actually carried far more by mechanical skill than they are by macro, because there is very little punishment to macro play at the moment. Like if you go, right, I'm gonna take the urn, I'm gonna hold it on this side of the map, gonna see if players are gonna come across. Doesn't matter. Fucking whole team teleports through yellow to green. They're already there. They're ready to defend the urn. It should be a case of, we don't have our shit together in that moment. We aren't all moving across the green to defend the urn placement. That's their urn, right? Yeah. They opted to go do it. They made that decision. They made the right call at the right time. And that somewhat disappoints me, because I think that with the map being so large and the wealth of movement ability that you have on a character to get around the map as well, TPs feel like a sad solution to getting around the map when there's already so many fun and useful ways to get around the map anyway, just through bounce paths, through wall jumps, through superior stamina, majestic leap, all this crazy stuff. It's frustrating, because I was thinking about this the other day, where MOBAs are fun a lot of times, especially throughout large age groups as well, because you can win games based off good macro, and it doesn't always have to be purely mechanical skill, but I think it is leaning further towards that with these current patches.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think like the idea of it is fine. And it's something that like they're even doing with Dota to a degree, where I don't play much Dota anymore, but I saw they had a big major update a couple weeks back, kind of around the same time we got free lanes. Dota got new rivers added to sides of the map, where basically these rivers increase your move speed in one direction. So like to get in or out of lane, depending on where it is. So you'd basically be able to run along those to get back into lane, you know what I mean? And that was kind of something they did in a similar vein. But I think even at least with that, it's like the decision making of, okay, I can't go downstream or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm going to have reduced speeds. You have to think about it a little bit more. Whereas with TPs, there is no negative side effects, but like you say, it is by far the boring option. It's not like you're soaring through the sky or hitting a Wraith card or ziplining or anything. It's just stand there, wait, appear. That's it, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's kind of cool if you're like chasing someone. It's like, oh, we're going to get him before he TPs, get your dot on him. He died. Cool.
Yeah.
You know? But that's it. There's no, you can't break the TP, you can't interrupt the TP like you used to be able to. There's nothing.
Get out of jail free card a lot of times.
Yeah, it is.
For bad macro. You should be punished for bad macro at the end of the day. That should be simple. That's a simple concept. And I don't know, man. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to me because I think that's one thing. And again, I'm willing to admit this probably frustrates me more than maybe other people because my mechanical skill isn't that of MKLS. It's not that of the trackball mania Zergy. It's not the case. But I think my macro is pretty decent. My macro in the games is pretty good. Where to be at what time. A lot of that is just, it feels kind of a moot point.
Bro, you know what, actually? 2 options here for you, right?
Okay.
1, say if someone's inside of a TP, there is a button in the back wall, right? If you heavy melee the button, when the person on the other side of the TP heavy melees the button, you both swap instantly. Instant cast TP, you both change places, all right?
Yeah.
There's one option for you. It gives a little bit of skill-based variance, like, oh, the heavy melee TP, look, they've swapped. The Wraith's there instead, you know what I mean? Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Other option is TPs can be activated at any point in the game after 10 minutes. 10 minutes is the threshold when they open, but none of them work initially. You have to link the TPs. You know, like on COD Zombies, on Die Rise, right? You have to go from teleporter to mainframe, and then it works, and it turns on. You can use that teleporter, but before that point, it doesn't do anything. What if you have to manually link the teleporters? So it is a bit of a risk. You're losing out on a bit of farm to activate that teleporter for later in the game.
You know what? I think building on that a little bit, that could be a really good idea, right? But how about you have this instead, where when you take a Guardian, so a Guardian activates those middle teleports between yellow and green, but only on one side. So you still have to link them, which means you can't rotate all the way. You have to rotate all the way to the other one, kill the other Guardian. Now those teleporters are open. You want the Walker teleports to work, you've got to take the Walkers.
You have to take the enemy Walker to get your set of TPs to work. So the benefit is not only a flex slot, but now you also have the Walker backdoor teleport. See? So a way of making them, you have to do something. It doesn't just work. It's not just open. Because you could even, that's very easy to balance as well in the same way, where you just have it so like you go into the TP, but it's only going to work if you've taken that Guardian. Like, it doesn't work for your team, and you could make that obvious, you know what I mean? For one team you have like a little green thumb out the front, the other team it's like a red X, you know what I mean? Something like that in universe that would make sense.
Exactly. That would be good, because it would mean you're gonna have to pressure on the other side of the map, but you're not TPing straight back across until you've taken that Guardian, in which case if you sent 2 guys off towards green, the 2 lads on yellow can push your Guardian, in which case they're gonna open up their teleport, and to be fair, push themselves further towards getting a flex slot in the early game.
See, but that's the better thing as well, because then it would be a matter of, it's not like you can win one lane and then
win
TP
the others,
and win the other. You have to win 2 lanes, then you could gamble on a big push on a Walker.
Yeah.
And that makes more sense, because if you're fighting for a Walker, at least the Walker does try and do something. It stomps, it shoots, it actually defends itself.
Guardian,
do
not
nothing.
a Guardian.
Like, they literally do nothing. Like, you defend them, you know?
Which is rough a lot. It does feel bad sometimes, where the Guardian feels like you're babysitting it, unless it's babysitting you. Again, I think that might be a case of some of the mechanics of the Guardian maybe need refining a little bit of how it targets characters. Someone
telegraphing its attacks and like...
Yeah, sometimes someone slaps me in the face in front of the Guardian, and Guardian's like, that trooper though.
That one.
I hate him.
It's mad as well, because I remember there was like one patch where they said, we've now made it so like Guardians will prioritize enemies that attack you under its radius. But I feel like that was just a lie.
Yeah,
like,
it was like a straight lie.
They wrote that and went, we'll get round to that, but we intend to do it, you know?
Yeah.
Ice Frog just sat there kecking. It'll defend you. Go on.
Go on. Test it.
Yeah, look.
Oh, it's
look at
been
him.
parried. Oh, it's
Look
not
at
going to help you anymore.
Look, he's killing all the troops whilst that guy's getting murked. Like, yeah,
It happens frequently.
Yeah.
It happens way too frequently.
Well, you just got a grey talent in the air, and the Guardian's like,
I can't reach him. He's
Where
proper
is-
far. He's proper
where
far
is he?
away. Yeah.
how's he done that? He's
I
in the
think
air.
the Guardian can't shoot upwards. I don't think it can look up.
No, I
That's the
think
problem.
it's like a dog, but it just can't look up.
It
You know
can't,
what I
no.
mean? Just front facing.
has
Hello?
no ability.
Hello? Is the grey talent in the room with us
Who
right
was
now?
that?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
I suppose it doesn't have eyes, to be fair. It's just a massive candle. Like,
Yeah. Anyway, crux of the problem there is teleporters are bloody strong at the moment.
they're
And
OP, man.
There needs to be a way to dampen them in the early game. I think, again, I still dislike teleporters even in mid late game. I really do feel like they dampen the skill of actually having proper macro of where to be on the map. I think your idea of having them cost something would be a good idea, but then again, it still causes problems in your early game where people would be willing to pay that price. Because I reckon if Valve released that, it'd be like it's 150 souls. They wouldn't make it
they
expensive.
keep it. But then you could just do a combination of these things. Because at least then it'd be more situational where there is risk versus reward, right? Like, do it all. Do it so you have the magic buttons so you can insta-cast, but that requires a swap from one lane to the other.
Yeah.
So two teammates have to be in there. You both punch, TP, instant cast, right? Costs 150 souls each time you TP. That's enough money that you could do it. You could afford it.
Yeah.
And then also, they have no time limit anymore, but they will just be activated upon destruction of, this one will only turn on when you destroy that Guardian, and only work
The
for the
corresponding
team that
Guardian.
destroyed it.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it has nothing it's linked to, so it won't work until that lane is also cleared. So clearing both lanes is what's important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then you actually have all these benefits.
Yeah, which would be good. It would be good. And again, that's good. That would be a case where if you really muck up in a lane and you don't push your lane out whilst they go and try to take the corresponding Guardian, that's on you, dude. Yeah, that's a problem for you. But that's probably a case where you send one of your players from blue to go help the lane that's lost. Go take that Guardian. You go for a 1-for-1, and then you can start working from there.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna instantly ruin your game. I think that some of those ideas we've proposed are pretty good. They're pretty solid. However, you could also just remove the teleports.
You could. Yeah,
that's another way of doing it.
That's the thing. Do you want to get rid of them, or do you want to make them not the most overpowered thing in the game?
Just
know?
even change their positions on the map so they're more akin to the shop teleporters, where they will take you to other areas of the map, but they will not take you directly there.
Yeah. Well, they used to be that way, remember? But that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's what people forget, is we did that. But then everyone never used them for anything, and everyone complained, and then they got moved more and more and more to be more and more useful. It's not like we always had it like this. We never had the side-to-side TP lanes. They were only introduced later on. That actually used to be like where the power-ups and the tier 3 jungle camps were, and then it all got juggled around. The TPs got added there. The ones behind the walkers were never there. They were actually, if you remember rightly, it was the theater to the other side of the map. It was those two.
I do remember
stuff like that, right? So
that was when we first got the TARDIS teleporters.
that was when they added the new model for the TARDIS. Yeah, but then they've been moved so much that this is what we were left with. So that's the other thing. If you want a really basic solution, maybe just remove some of them and move the current ones' locations.
Yeah,
but I don't think we should have the side-to-side TPs anymore. It's bad.
We've created 3 solutions.
Yeah.
For a problem that honestly just needs moving. I mean, if you want to keep those teleporters, fine. But again, it's like it limits so many things. You have the teleporters there, so then you've got 3 guys in one lane with absolutely no counterplay because they're instantly teleporting back to their lane and supporting their Guardian. You ever take the urn, the entire team can be instantly there, whether they're split pushing or they're not. Like, there's so much macro that just goes in the bin from having those teleporters in play. And it's frustrating to play against because even with good macro, it feels like a losing battle a lot of times. You split pushing, someone teleports behind you, someone teleports on the walker. It takes away a lot. And I think what it does, it takes away a lot of the map, right? There's a lot of times towards mid-late game, I'm never rotating through the map. I'm rotating through teleporters. I don't see half the map. The parts of the map I see are the bounce pads. Those are the bits of the map I see. Because that's when I'm rotating to mid lane. So, yeah, I genuinely am not a fan of teleporters in their current rendition. No. I think we've come to the conclusion that, yeah, Guardians are weak. And maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. If you take a Guardian early, fair play, you won your lane, but you shouldn't be able to win everyone else's lane.
No.
2 minutes
that's
afterwards.
That's the problem. The fact that you get so rich and then only get richer and there's no way to punish you because by the law of, 4 people outnumber 2, and it's that easy now for 4 people to get over there. I think that's the problem. And that's the issue as well, because there's no incentive to go and gank mid. There's no reason to go mid because there's no TPs to mid.
No, there isn't. You're right. The only times that I see people ganking mid is mostly few and far between. And a lot of times it's us that do it because we bounce pad across the mid and we help mid that way.
Yeah.
But a lot of times what happens is side lane loses, other side lane loses, mid loses, and then it gets out of control from there onwards. And I think that is one of the big problems with the game is that, and I hate it, it gets very repetitive. Because if I'm winning, it's because I won the side lane, then I won the other side lane, then I won mid. If I'm losing, it's because one of our side lanes loses, the other side lane loses, then we lose mid. And it's rinse and repeat. So that's annoying. Again, the core concept of the game, this never changes for me. Core concept of the game, it's amazing. So fun. So fun. The map is really good. But I want to go back to the days where we had 4 lanes and macro actually mattered. Where you were on the map mattered.
I mean, I think at this point, maybe even it's a matter of you could keep 3 lanes, but potentially would need to even redesign just how middle works and then change those teleporters around it to incentivize movement more. Because that's everything they did with this map, was put in bounce pads, put in robes, put in the verticality. It was all to subtly trick people into using it more. But all everyone does is go, oh, the movement's not as good as the old map. And it's like, bro, you just... I don't know, somehow it doesn't connect with people that maybe there needs to be even more. It needs to be clearly, have some yellow paint splashed on it. So people go, oh, I can go up there.
Yeah.
But I think in reality as well, it's what I was saying where like the other thing is everything is so asymmetrical in Deadlock that was how it worked, that it had pros and cons of like, if I take this TP, I go here in their portion of the map. The fact that there's neutral TPs that are only beneficial to your team is bad. It should always have a risk of, I'm TP into a risky area. Don't want to use that because it could be bad, Got to use it at the right time. I think that would be better.
Yeah.
But then it's also like with mid lane, it's symmetrical. And I get it because it's the one middle lane. It can be. But in reality, would it not be better if it was asymmetrical and you had maybe the mid podium, you kind of twist round and go sideways, so either side, have more of a curve in the lane itself so that you could actually break it up a bit, have quicker rotate points from either side where you could get to certain areas a little bit quicker and break up the feel of it a bit. Or if you're going that far, add 2 Guardians at middle, 1 on the left and on the right, and just make that still one lane, but a more grandiose lane. You know what I mean?
I mean, again, I think there's tons of solutions here. But the thing I picked up on what you talk about there the most is the fact that when free lane was introduced, movement was such a big deal. I don't think the meta switched straight away, did it? It didn't. I think for a lot of our games, we were having so much fun. People were bounce padding around, people were rotating a lot, people were having a lot of fun. I think it was... I'm not blaming this on Deadlock Fight Night. There's nothing this, but even just the 1-win tournaments, like I think those came out. Suddenly everyone was watching VP, Hydra Nation, Big and Brolic all using teleporters just to fly around the map and instantly end lanes. I mean, Big and Brolic were really good at this, where they'd have ABL, who's insane, just demolish a lane, take Guardians at 4 minutes, and then just start roaming. Everyone saw that and was like, oh, so that's how we play. We just abuse teleporters. Because I think for those first 2 weeks, playing free lanes was really fun. Because people were actually rotating. People were having fun rotating, using the bounce pads, getting on the rooftops. But now it's just a case of, you don't see it anymore. You just see teleporters. Teleporters. Yeah,
people just appear.
So technically, the game was in a really good state when people forgot teleporters were good.
But that's the problem, though. That's the thing that comes around in circles with this, with Deadlock especially, where I feel like the issue is something is balanced until it is found by one person in the community that publicizes it, be it through a video, be it for a tournament or whatever. Then the longer the game's been out, the more people latch onto these things and just do that. And I think that sucks in a way, because the thing that made Deadlock feel so unique and so different was the fact that it felt like any build was viable, any hero was viable in any build, any gameplay style was kind of viable. Whereas now it feels a lot more like you don't play meta heroes, you're throwing. You don't buy meta items, you're throwing. You don't play just with TPs on side lanes instantly, gank in this exact manner.
Dude,
you're throwing.
It's fucking mad, because right now meta heroes are not meta because they're strong at different points. I'm trying to describe this because Infernus was a meta hero back in the day, or not even a meta. He was just a good hero, because you knew if he got to late game, and he farmed correctly and he played it smart, he would be a force to be reckoned with. Not useful anymore, because most teams just want a bunch of tanky frontliners who can dish out quick and dirty damage in the early game, like Abrams, like Calico, like Yamato, like Holiday, which have all seen fairly extensive use out of the tournaments and a high-level elo, because they are the strongest characters to bring if you want to mess up two guys' lives in a 4v2 on a lane. And that's the reason why they're so strong right now. Not because they're broken, not because they need adjusting, because I think even Valve realizes this. They're like, characters not receiving a nerf, not because they're hyper strong, maybe Calico is, but because of the way they're being used in game. I don't really know. I think we do know. We do know how to solve the problem. It's just frustrating that you're taking a very specific set of characters because they're good in the early game and they're good at shutting down characters. Like Wraith has a really weird personality right now as a character, in my opinion. She's still very, very strong. She's still very, very good, but she plays more into that role of that's the person that holds down blue lane as a solo, whereas the 5 other frontliners in your team go out and farm players on the map. But Wraith was always meant to be a duelist, always meant to be a split pusher, right? Where she had telekinesis to shut down anyone that tried to come take her out. And if you played your cards right, you got 1 kill, then you got a walker. That's how she felt like she was designed. McGuinness, unconventional, definitely not as strong as Wraith, but had a role in the game where she was good at split pushing, she was good at objective games, she was good at holding down earn spots and mid, but she's been shunted so far out because that's all she was good at. Wraith is still a good duelist. McGuinness is an objective character which has no role in the game right now, sadly, and she's hard to balance.
Dude, and it's weird as well because we had that way back, like first couple tournaments that were popping up. You know what I mean?
Naked was sick on it.
Dude, that's what I mean. But it's like she felt like she was obscure. No one really picked her. She had no reason to be played. Then people figured out how to play her. Valve buffed her a bit. Suddenly, McGuinness was a viable character in tournaments. But now the longer it's gone on, I feel like that's the issue, is the map changes artificially made.
Does not fit in the meta.
Some characters no longer work. They don't fit. They're not useful. But then the worst bit is, that's what sucks more than anything, is because it felt like I said before, everyone and anyone in Deadlock could be played. You could play any hero and you weren't trolling. You know, it wasn't like, what are you doing? You picked McGuinness, the game's gone. But at a certain threshold now of Deadlock games,
I see McGuinness on my Kim, I'm scared.
It's over. That's what I mean. Like, there's certain heroes that a team picks and you've thrown just because innately they're not as useful in the current way the game is played, where everything it feels so artificially curated in the sense of like, most builds still have variants, but everything is becoming so arbitrary. Of you now have a set list of min-maxed best items you should have, best in slot in every category for all these heroes. If you're not picking them up, you are throwing the game. And you have to explain that to people where it's like, bro, you do need Unstoppable, you do need debuff remover, like all of these things that people have to buy. And it's a slot they can't just have for the fun, whimsical items anymore. You have to buy these things because it's the only way you're going to be able to win these games. And it just feels like everything's gotten out of hand, where the game is, I don't know, when Valve first sort of came up with Deadlock, got people testing it and were letting people play it, it didn't feel like it was being balanced around the idea of the professional scene. And I think that's good. If I'm going to be real with you, like, yeah, Counter-Strike, sure, it should be balanced around the pro scene. It's what the game is. And even the casual players love that. But Deadlock, you alienate a large portion of the player base if all you do is make it so hyper-fixated on the idea of what the esports scene does is best. Because we get into this position where you have a really boring meta that is lame and annoying and cringe. It
is, dude. I think that's the thing where that's why macro is so important as well.
Yeah.
Because everyone says this. If you ever speak to it, and again, I don't know how many of you view this podcast and know a huge amount about esports, but obviously me and Jacky work in esports quite frequently. But everyone says if you're an esports coach, the first thing you say to players is that if you've got good macro, that's great. But technically, I would rather have a player that had amazing mechanical skill. Yeah. Macro is easier to learn. I think macro is where you need to invest into, especially in a casual MOBA, because it's what players can learn, and it's decision making that feels rewarding at any level of the game. And casual players I don't think casual players enjoy the fact that they're just getting ganged up on right now by players with better mechanical skill are just rinsing them. I think they'd rather be like, I made a rotate over towards blue lane and I was able to grab the Guardian because I saw that there was 4 guys on the other side of the map and they couldn't just instantly TP towards me. I made a good decision. I'm happy about that. I'm going to go farm the jungle right now because not a lot's happening on the map, and I don't think there can be 4 dudes suddenly appearing in my jungle because they're rotating at the speed of light. These are all decisions that are rewarding in their own sense and bring satisfaction. You getting 2 tapped in the head by a Holiday doesn't feel fun, especially when she's just appeared out of nowhere. And you had no way to predict that was happening, other than maybe someone going, I think Holiday's TPing yellow. But let's be honest, guys, how many times do you hear in your game someone call missing? Probably not a lot, I'm imagining.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, is it's also like the only audio cue you get for that is like the when they come through the other side.
They're already on you. They've got a move speed buff as well.
That's what I mean. So they come flying out. You are too far deep in the lane that you can't even get back to your Guardian. And if you're unlucky that it is a Holiday or someone of the like that has any sort of grab, like Bebop, anyone, they've pulled you straight back in. And I think innately as well, it makes sense because it's those characters that have higher base sprint speeds, but annoyingly, those characters have higher base sprint speeds. So if they come running at you, Bebop's like 4 meters a second, you're going to get grabbed straight up, homie, like GG. And that's the thing as well, like, you know, since the last podcast, I think we spoke about Divine Barrier and Resto Locket getting changed, right? That was last time around. I think that was last week.
Yeah.
But if we didn't, it was a minor change. Like, again, 2 items that are a pain in the ass, that where we're talking about, like, these are meta pickup items that you kind of do need in lane, and everyone would have. You're spamming Resto Locket because it's unbelievable. Like, you get even 6 stacks on Resto Locket. It's a decent chunk of HP.
DB's still a problem, dude.
Yeah,
100%.
Divine Barrier hasn't changed at all. Like, 30 shield is nothing. It's literally nothing. It feels like it was the most pointless nerf. Like, at the time, it was like, yeah, okay, cool. To step in the right direction. I'm not going to be upset they nerfed it.
It just needs a price increase. That's what it needs.
Do something else. You can't knock 30 shield off it and expect the problem to be solved, you know?
It needs a price increase as DB, because for the value both Resto Locket as well as DB gives you in lane is insane. The amount of times I've seen someone survive on 1 HP because they pop Divine Barrier, get the movement speed off of it, fly out of the lane before I can tap at them another 230 damage. Like, and by that time they're already far away, so I'm getting range fall off. It's frustrating. And there's no. Also, riddle me this one. At what point say most characters can get Divine Barrier at 5 minutes. Am I ever going to be one-tapping someone for 230 spirit damage at that point in the game where they're getting away? No. I'm never going to be one-tapping anyone for 230 gun damage at that stage again. It's just another get-out-of-jail-free card. Those
and there's
annoying.
too much of that. I think there's too much of that.
At
like
low price points.
That's the problem. That's what I mean, because that's the issue where I didn't understand how... The problem in my mind, especially with Resto Locket, is it gives you way too much health and it's off cooldown all the time. And it builds stacks even when it's on cooldown.
Yeah.
So what's the point of the cooldown? You know, I'm not going to be chaining my heals together. Like, it's silly. But it's like, so you've got a Paradox in lane. Never kill her. Just instantly pop in Resto Locket all the bloody time. Like,
if you're a Brave player, it's the worst, dude, because you're constantly throwing out cards, which means that the only time you can throw out a card for poke damage is never. The only time you're throwing out cards is when you try and confirm a kill, which is hard to do because you haven't got any poke damage in the first place because they're just healing it all back. It's a tough one. It's a real tough one.
It's really raw. But yeah, that's the thing with that is they just, I think it was like 20 spirit resist or whatever it was that used to be on it that was taken off.
Yeah, to be fair, that they did need to be removed.
Yeah,
again,
that needed to go, but that's still, in my mind, that's not enough. But I saw people complaining about that, where they were just like, "Oh, how do you think this is such a good change? Imagine playing as great against Grey Talon," and it's just like, bro, come on, like,
come on, dude. If a Grey Talon's hitting you over and over with arrows, fair play to him.
You can't just dash out the way, bro.
Dash out
They're
the way.
They're not that hard anymore. Like, dash out the way. You've got
play
to
behind
move.
cover. Yeah,
exactly. When you hear
like
him
that.
charging it up, tuck in, wait it out. He'll eventually shoot.
Dude, that is such a schizo take as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's your counterplay. Your counterplay is that not that I should hide behind cover, not that I should dodge the arrows, not that I should... It is to buy an item that will out-heal the damage that he's able to do. That's insane.
Rush this tier 2 item that costs bare money because I don't know how to dodge. Yeah, I don't...
So I can out-heal. Yeah.
That's
so
what
I can
mean.
out-heal the
that's
mechanic.
What I don't understand. Is like, there is people that think that way and then they get really upset with it. Like, why would you nerf this? But it's like, dude, I hate playing against players with Resto Locket. I'll use it sometimes, but it is annoying. I think it's like, it's arguably on the scale of cringe, it's like healing right on most characters. if you're a Lash and you buy healing right, like, what are you doing, bro? And then you're sat there in the shop going, I'm just gonna wait this one out.
I'm gonna wait this one out.
You know?
Exactly.
And then
healing right's not a terrible item. It has counterplay to it. It has counterplay to it.
Yeah, sure. If you want, also it's like, it's kind of useful if you're jungling a little bit, but you're gonna die, bro. Like, heal him right up. It won't cancel it. You'll still have it. You know what I mean? Or if you need to get some sustain and you can't self heal, sure. But there's so many heroes that have self heals that are off cooldown very regularly that people still buy healing right on. Then they just peek the lane. It's like, I'm gonna shoot you. You've wasted your money on that item. We're like, if anything, I want to shoot you more because I see that you're using healing, right? So that's like mid-tier cringe. But then Resto Locket is mega cringe.
It's high tier.
Like, if you're using Resto Locket, it's like, what are you actually doing? Like, what are you hoping to achieve? Because I am going to kill you eventually. Like, you're just delaying the inevitable. And also, you're inting yourself by buying Resto Locket. Like, you can keep that for the whole game?
I mean, some people do. This is the problem. Is it actually is really strong, even late game, because Yamatos use it, Shivs use it. Like Shiv, I think most Shivs don't sell Resto Locket until 50 minutes in, because it's so useful to have when you're on low HP. You can heal, I think, for like 700. You get healing booster on top of that. It's healing even more. Yamato's get into situations where she ults. Suddenly she's full HP with Crimson Slash as well as Resto Locket. The item's busted. But again, I think that's cool mid-game. I don't think that's cool early game.
No.
I think you use Resto Locket, you've outplayed me, bro, mid-game. I thought I could take you down. You've managed to hold on to those stacks. It's sick. Fair play to you.
You pressed one key and got all your health back.
You pressed one key. Fair play to you. But early game laning, you're healing back all my damage in lane because I actively cannot out-damage you. Yeah, that's wrong. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. That's cringe.
No, it's just... Yeah,
it's not a laning
weird.
item. It's not a laning item.
No, it shouldn't be. Like, it really shouldn't be. I find it really annoying with how that works. But
I think people in comments will be like, it is a laning item. They'll say that they absolutely will, because again, it's an item you use, self-sustaining lane. We already have healing right for that. Already have healing right.
You don't need this.
You don't need this.
Like, yeah,
this
it's
is too much.
But anyway, that they changed that. I don't know if we did speak about that before, but we've spoken about it now anyway. The other thing is there was the global sprint increase. So I saw someone saying with that as well, where they were like, "Oh, actually, I watch Dead Air videos, but I don't think I will after this because it's ridiculous. You've even posted a video on this, and it's so annoying because what's the point of me clicking this video when you haven't even explained anything?" And it's like, mate,
that's a keck.
Not even that, bro. It's like I've literally given you a before and after comparison of nearly every hero in the game, so you can visually see how much of a difference it is. I even then went one step further and gave you a comparison of before, after with enduring speed and with fleet foot. Like, so I've literally explained to you that, yeah, actually, speed items are still viable. Doesn't matter that Valve have made it so everyone is slightly quicker. Because I saw people saying, why would I ever buy a sprint item? And it's like, well, because no one's got nerfed. Everyone's been buffed. So the same scaling is still there. You're still going to be quicker. You're still quicker still.
You're like this.
Yeah.
But now like this.
That's what I mean.
You're still you're not catching them.
You're just quicker still. Like, you are just better. Like, it's just a global buff. But the other thing is, clearly they've done this to try and get people to start moving again. Try and make people realize, look, you're a little bit quicker. Run between the lanes.
Teleport.
Yeah, but that's all people do. But I saw with that one, like, mixed bag. Like, people just really angry about it, which blows my box. I don't know. I just don't understand.
I remember it was a test from Yoshi. He was like, can I just post one line of patch and see if people could be happy about this? I mean, I'm happy to be moving faster. I like moving faster in general. Yeah, I like it.
If you think about it, really, we've gone up 1 meter a second since when we had 4 lanes, because it was a 0.5 meter buff before and a 0.5 meter buff now. So we're moving 1 meter quicker, which is better. Like, I'll take that. Why would that ever be a bad thing?
I mean, it's a frustrating timeline we're in right now. It really is, and I think it's frustrating because there is solutions. There's solutions for it, and I think it's doubly frustrating because we haven't had a patch in a while, and again, hard for me to be upset with that because I know that Valve is probably cooking up something large in the background, which when it gets pushed, it's going to be a big change to the game as opposed to a small one, because that's what they're more leaning into now, as far as we're aware, with the 3 lane patch as well. So hopefully that's going to be the case coming up soon, where we just have another big overhaul. But again, there is solutions. Again, I feel your pain. You're someone who plays Deadlock regularly. Is that we have had a bit of a stagnant meta, and that's going to happen when patches aren't being pushed as frequently. But I think that Valve is more or less in the background working their little socks off to get the game in as good a state as possible.
Well, they told us this, right? You know, that's kind of like, I've seen people that really didn't understand what that message was from Yoshi and the team back at the start of the year. Remember when he said, like, look, guys, we're not going to be doing bi-weekly updates anymore. You will get updates when they're ready, which gives us more time to make big updates. Yeah. But because they've been posting minor balance changes and tiny, like, micro updates like this, where it is a single patch note, people use this as some kind of justification in their minds that, oh, they don't care about the game. They're just shipping a single patch note. And it's like, no, dummy. Like, obviously, this means they're doing actual updates in the background. Like, what do you want them to do? Give you an update that's half finished? Like, it takes time to make art. It takes time to change the gameplay. It takes time to overhaul the map. But the point is, they're not going to give it to you half-baked. They're going to make it, be happy with it, and give it to you. But if you get a random little patch, you should be happy. That's like, oh, cool, look, they've increased sprint speed. Oh, look, they've changed this item. Doesn't ruin your day, does it? Like, that's what I don't understand. People are justifying it as if, like, oh, they have proven they don't care about the game because they shipped a tiny update.
They love the game.
It's like, what do you tell
you right now?
If they didn't care about the game, they would have scrapped it forever ago. The point is, like, it survived being a concept into Neon Prime, into Shadowline, into Deadlock, into a year nearly. We're almost at a year, by the way. Like, we're like 24 days away from the first anniversary of Deadlock being in the hands of the public. Valve don't make games they don't like.
Yeah.
They cancel games they don't like. They've done that forever. It's the reason we still don't have Half-Life 3. Every time they thought, like, oh yeah, we're done with it, they go, actually, it's not good enough, and bin it, and then just start again. That's what they didn't do with Deadlock. So it should prove to people like, they care. They care enough that they go, this is good. We're happy with it. We actually want to finish this and give it to everyone. It's just not ready yet.
And I think when it is ready, it'll be good. It will be very, very good. And again, this is such unbreached waters right now we're in with Deadlock, where it is a game that has gone wholly on record as an alpha, open to the public, to just sift through and be like, these are mistakes that are here. And again, I think it's good. I genuinely think it's good because in the small conversations that we've had with the developers over at Valve, they're super receptive to change a lot of times. And they're super receptive to ideas. Sometimes they don't listen to those ideas, and that's fair because they know best a lot of times. But I think that Valve is taking that approach of let's see how much of what we can get from the public to make the best game together, as opposed as just the company, which is cool.
Dude, that's also why I think it's so jarring when obviously it's a bit different because I imagine like it brings up a bit of another topic we can touch on before we start to wrap this one up anyway. But I think as you get older, you realize like it's easier to look at things objectively and not just gut react impulse like, meh, this is lame, you know? And most people on the internet these days, like if this offends you, sorry, but most people on the internet these days seem to be fueled by the idea of outrage and anger. They love a bit of anger. They want to be annoyed about something and they want to tell you why it sucks and they want to be angry and say, that's cringe. You like something? That's cringe. But actually, here's a bit of life advice from Jacky. That's cringe. Saying things are cringe, not being able to enjoy stuff and just have fun with something. What Valve have done here is very unique, right? Like you say, they've got the public involved. They've never done this. Taking open feedback, letting people play a very early version of the game that isn't being tested in Seattle in a secret room. It's just out there with stuff that's left in the files from every different build that you can sift through. The reason we've made videos on Neon Prime, all this stuff, because Valve just left it for us to look at and went, yeah, we tried that, didn't like it. Exactly. That's fun. And if you're interested in that stuff and you enjoy it and you enjoy the game and you want to help them make it, that's cool and that's fine. But ranting about it and saying the game sucks, you're killing my game, that's lame and that's cringe. And that's not what they're doing. It's not your game at the end of the day. It's their product. They've been working on this for a very long time before we ever got anywhere near it. None of us have any kind of like right to it. The best thing you can do is if you have a knee-jerk reaction to something they do to the game, submit feedback, talk about it, but condense your thoughts into something understandable, not this is lame. Like, you know what I mean? That's not going anywhere. Ranting in the public Discord doesn't mean anything.
In fact, let's take this as a moment. For all you guys out there who maybe do not want to write on the forums, I'm going to do this for you, all right? If you've got ideas or solutions for TP or the stagnant meta, drop them in the comments. I will collate a general feedback post over on the forums for you. If you can't go and write it up, just a couple of lines. We'll get the dead air community, and we'll whack a little feedback thread in there for you.
We'll send something over.
We'll send
anything's
something
better
over.
than nothing at this point.
I want to hear your ideas. Yeah.
Apart from the guy that we're saying
hates you,
Resto Lockett, making a video. I'm never watching one of your videos again. Well, good, don't.
Sorry,
why am I?
Sorry, I made some effort. I apologise.
The guy who makes videos about patches made a video about the patch, but it's not that big. Yeah, the doy. It's a little patch.
But
what
please send in your ideas. We'll collate them and we'll work with it. Either way, I know we've got some real Deadlock connoisseurs in the fan base, or those who just listen to the podcast, in which case you're absolutely welcome here as well. But we know you guys like Deadlock, so drop your ideas below in the comments, which I think are around here-ish.
Down somewhere, yeah.
Down.
They move it all the time.
It could be different. Over here, something like that. But yeah, let us know.
I think that would be handy. That's the way we can do it. And also, that does bring me on to the point I was going to bring up. You remember back in episode 17 we did actually say, like, oh, if you're an average age, like, what sort of age are you? Do you enjoy Deadlock? Do you play it with your friends? Like, how old are you? We did get quite a few people that actually sent back in answers about that, by the way. So I was going to have a quick look through these because there is quite a sort of variety of it. I've noticed most people are around 25 to 30. That does kind of seem to be, at least the people that commented on it and gave their sort of input. You've got someone here who's played 1,050 hours, said it's their first MOBA, and he's 26 years old. So that's a good starting point. 1,000 hours, pretty good in a year. Depends when he got access as well. If he only got access a couple months ago, mate, he's getting the grind in. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
You've got another person here, 29 years old, 850 hours since September.
That's a lot.
That's a grind. He's been playing an awful lot. For a near 30-year-old, this guy must be doing well for himself. I imagine you're coming home from work, getting the hours
Slamming
in, right?
Deadlock, yeah.
No kids, maybe? I don't think you've got kids. Or maybe the kids have grown up, 30 years old. Who knows? Maybe you had kids young. They've moved on now. They've left the house. Age 17, you've kicked them out.
First MOBA of 10 years of CS as well. I like that. I like people moving across from CS because, MOBA make my brain hurt. Yes, it does.
See, but it's interesting. That's what I was saying, because Slacks was asking me about this as well, where he was like, obviously, I'm from MOBA, but do you think as a CS player, the game does enough for anyone from FPS? And I always thought, I thought this game would be the next thing to entice in. Like, no one's going to quit Counter-Strike in terms of playing it, even if they play it casually. They're not going to go, I'm done forever.
Yeah.
But I think this game does give you another game that you could play 24/7, every day, jump in. I think it is, obviously it's a completely different genre, but it's the best in show at what it does.
Absolutely. I mean, it is accessible at the end of the day. Maybe right now it's a little bit too accessible to FPS.
Yeah.
And I think we do need to bring some MOBA aspects back, but yeah, that's good. 29-year-old, 350 hours. It's not bad either.
A lot of 29. A lot of 29 years old.
That's an interesting thing. They tried other MOBAs before where they didn't really catch, which I think is a very, very good thing about Deadlock that we can talk about right now, is the fact that Deadlock does encompass a lot of genres, and some people aren't just for the controlling the little doll on the map with the right click. They like to get a little bit more immersed with that third person side of things. So yeah, fair play to you. I think
it's true as well though, because it's like I played Smite at one point, and Smite felt like it was like, oh, whoa, I'm in third person. But in reality, it was just the camera was in a different place. You were still so limited in terms of like how you move, the arbitrary nature of it. Dota was fun, but I only really enjoyed ability draft or playing the random game modes. Like the seasonal game modes, they were peak, man. Like the Christmas game mode where you do like a tower defense. Oof. They were actually unbelievable. I hope Deadlock does stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever played these before. They're unreal. You'd have like these little wave defense mini games where it'd be like you with a team of 5.
Yeah.
You'd get gold from killing the creeps that get increasingly hard, and then level up your character with like mad item synergies, to like wreck all the waves. Mate, it was unbelievable. So good. I hope they do the same for Deadlock at some point. That would be legit sick. But yeah, like all of them just felt like a point and click game. So you're playing Warcraft 3, but I don't know, everyone wants you to die. Like everyone's angry.
Yeah.
Whereas Deadlock, it's just it's so smooth. I think that's the difference. Is Deadlock is so thematically different from anything else out there. I know it's not even finished yet, but it has the polish of a Valve game. Like it's got that feel to it where like it's eerie, it's cool, it's different, it's so interesting. But it's also just, it feels like Titanfall or something, like sliding along the map. I think that's the difference.
When's why it's running?
Yeah, but legit, I think that's something you could add. But it's one of those where I think it just evolved the genre. It took the idea of a MOBA, but got rid of all the stuff that makes it boring. It made MOBA fun.
I mean, to be honest, I think that it's a natural progression for a lot of people who play MOBAs as well to try and jump on this one, especially some young whippersnappers with incredible mechanical skill. I mean, Heated Chaos here says turning 24 soon and 450 hours in right now, but moved across from Dota 2, which they played for 3,500 hours, which is a big change, right? I think if you play 3,500 hours of Dota 2, that is kind of your game. So for Deadlock to take up 450 hours of that time, I mean, definitely love the game at that point.
That's pretty good as well, because you can see as well, that's probably, you again, like 24, you don't know how long he's been playing Dota 2, but, you know, release was 2012, right? Like, it's been a while. Like, Dota's been out for a long time now. So even 3.5k hours, that's a decent chunk of his life at 24, as weird as that is, as someone that's got like 11,000 hours in CS. I know how that goes. But that's also, you see how much time he's already putting into Deadlock. That's the interesting thing, is I feel like Deadlock is one of those games where, unlike Dota, unlike CS and stuff like that, where sometimes it can be a bit daunting to queue and it feels like it is a bit hard. I feel like with Deadlock, it's one of those where even if you lose or you're having a bad day, you still just queue again. And it's so easy to rack up hours each week. You know what I mean? Just keep going up
all the time. Problematically. Well, how many hours am I on now? Let's have a look. Could be embarrassing. We will have a loot.
Just shy of 800.
Okay. I'm just checking. I need to pull up the Steam. I've logged out for some reason.
You're like an old man.
I know. Total 793.
Yeah.
793 hours. So we both got quite a bit on it at the moment.
It's getting there. It's getting there. I think that, I mean, to be fair, considering that's from June, that's from June till now. What was it, June? Yeah, June. Early June till now was when we got access. So you're looking at, it's going to be a year in 3 months. So that'll probably be about 1,000 something hours in a year. I feel like that's
a lot.
Healthy enough, though. That's not an unreasonable amount of playtime. It's not too little. It's not too much. You know, I feel like that's actually kind of okay, all things considered.
Yeah, it's around 41 days of our life spent on Deadlock after a year.
Yeah.
Total. We could probably say 80 days on Deadlock in a year, if we don't count sleeping.
It's also not factoring in casting it and video creation, which also... more hours.
Those bump up the hours
that
as well.
Brings it up a bit. So that's the hard thing, even with CS, because it's like technically, I think like my CS:GO hours alone was like 7k or something, but then you have to add in CS2 hours and CSS hours, and then if you added together every hour spent commentating Counter-Strike, it's probably like a unbelievably large portion of my life. Yeah,
big chunk. Yeah,
but it did also give me a job and a career and made me who I am today. So thanks for that, Valve. I appreciate that. Cheers.
And
Valve.
we'll see where Deadlock goes in the future.
I think
I'm
it'll
hoping
start to overtake.
It maybe.
Hours at least, it definitely will. I don't.
Yeah,
the thing is, Counter-Strike at this point is it's one of those, dude.
It's
where I feel like
outrageously large.
Yeah, so much so, like maybe even too much for its own good. I feel like it's artificially changed the whole industry, where everyone wants to be attack FPS. Everyone's slowing down their games. You know what I mean? Like Counter-Strike went so mainstream that it's not even like when you get in an Uber anymore, you have to say, "Oh, what do you do?" And you're like, I work in Call of Duty," because it was just easier to explain. Now they know Counter-Strike, and they're like, "Oh, CS," you know?
That's right.
It's interesting. But I think with how passionate Valve is about Deadlock, and it's been a while where like we haven't had a game, really. You know, they've tried a few things. I imagine it will be more, this is their next thing they're putting a lot of investment into, and you can see the overlap of developers that worked on Dota and really were passionate about Dota. Gabe loves Dota. Like, he's never attended a CS major, but he's been at TI multiple times, loves the game, plays Dota 2 himself religiously. I imagine he probably really enjoys Deadlock as well.
The cool thing about Deadlock, though, not to bash on CS, I know the people would be like, try and behead me for talking badly about CS, but there's not a bad thing about CS. It's just that, like, once the core product is there, you've got the skins and the operations that come out on top of it, but it's very minor in terms of balance updates. Once you've got the game, that's it. You're done and dusted. It's not like they're adding new guns to the game. But with Deadlock, like, I can imagine you would be very passionate. Not to say that the CS2 devs are not passionate, but I can imagine you'd be very passionate about a game where you're constantly adding new heroes, you're thinking about adding new items, you're adjusting the map, you're doing events, adding new objectives maybe to tackle from season to season. Those stuff all seem very fun to do, and it's quite involved in that sense. So I do think that if Deadlock continues, it will be big. I have a lot of hope for it.
It's the only worrying thing with that as well, though, is that's just because the longer CS has been out, and if you think it's been nearly 30 years now, give or take, people have become so polarized when even the smallest change to a stat value or the game results in, millions of people going, "What are you doing? You've ruined my game." So if you're a Valve dev, like, I'm gonna be real, if I was a developer that worked at Valve, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near Counter-Strike. And that's from someone that's like, my life would never be the same without the game, But I wouldn't want to be there because people are so angry, so toxic, and so set in their ways of what they think they're owed. Whereas with Deadlock, at least right now, people kind of understand the game's going to change and they're accepting that, and that's good. And I think more and more change and keeping the game fresh with, like you say, new things going in for years would be really dope. The only thing that worries me is I know, like, from a lot of people I've spoken to about this, where I've said that, or I've said, it's cool because the difference is this community is accepting of change. Yeah. They're all like, for now. It's like, I remember even talking to Philip about it, and he was like, well, they will be, but how long will that last, And that's the thing, is that is kind of true in a way. If you think, right, 5 years from now, maybe people are going to be pissed off if they add a new item. But, hey, that's future us.
That's future us to worry about. That's episode 312 in the future. So we'll see how it goes until
they've
then.
reworked Pocket. I don't know.
He's got... Wait, is it a briefcase?
It is a briefcase, yeah.
They've got a small handbag now.
Small handbag. Throwing that one around. Tesco's bag.
Yeah. Tesco's bag could be good. Tesco bag could be good.
Mate, to be fair.
Of a small frog in it.
London pocket. Tesco's bag. He looks a bit dishevelled. Oh, that'd be banter.
You'd be afflicted by the... £3 meal deal.
Just the old chicken flies out.
That would be gross.
Boss man pocket. Oi, you got the time, big man. Chicken hits you. Oh God. Be a nightmare.
With the fade they've got, I think they would suit London as well, to be honest with you. Yeah. So
it would be pretty good.
Maybe that could be a skin they get in the future.
But yeah, other than that, the only other comment on that video was someone else saying they're 31 or approaching 31. Happy birthday if it's this week.
Yeah.
We'll
Happy birthday.
Whenever it is. 450 hours since September. So again, a lot of people got in September. What was September? Was that?
I think that was. Is that when they opened the invites?
No, that was.
Maybe that was when the peak was happening. Potentially when the peak happened. Let me pull up Steam charts.
I think August the game went public. October we did the charity clash. So September would have been the following month.
Right.
I believe.
Yeah, that's when the peak was. So
so a lot of people were coming in then, I guess.
Monday, 2nd of September, 171,000. That was the peak.
So I guess people were getting into the game around there.
And if you stuck with the game until then, thank you. We appreciate you.
Yeah. But there you go. That was the community feedback on that one from our question about how old you are if you're playing Deadlock. But it does kind of prove a point, because I wondered, in the same vein, I was kind of thinking, like, I feel like a large, maybe it's also just our audience is around that age. But I did think there was a large majority of people that probably were. Obviously, on the contrary, you do have a collection of younger people as well, because weirdly, of all the esports overlap, I find it funny that Fortnite has a lot of players that have gotten into Deadlock. Like, I think Young Calc came from Fortnite originally.
Yeah. Lost a lot of followers, by the way, for that.
What, for leaving Fortnite?
Yeah, to switch
or just for people not
Deadlock.
caring about Deadlock?
I think from shifting across from Fortnite to Deadlock. I respect him for it. To be honest with you, I mean, he's making good in his career for Deadlock. I think that if I'm honest with you, young Calc, the Fortnite space is heavily inflated. But I think with the amount of followers you currently got, I don't think you're worrying too much. But he is one of the best players in the world right now. So I urge him to stick with Deadlock. Because I'm thinking Deadlock's a Q4, at least open beta this year, I'd imagine. I'm thinking 6 months for open beta.
I think in reality, look, it's hard to pin it down because you've got to remember, like, Dota 2 was in beta for years. Like, all that matters is, and all that will be the staple of kind of the green light of things going ahead, is when we get some kind of play button on Steam. When there's a banner that says you can play Deadlock, don't have to ask your mates, don't have to do whatever, you can just click the button and play. I think that's what matters, and that has got to be at some point this year. I think in reality we're probably like 2 major updates away from something like that, because there's 4 heroes and hero labs left to be finished up, right? Add those, we're at what, 30 something heroes then?
It's a good amount,
right? That's a decent player pool. You've got enough variants, enough to learn. The map's got itself into a state that they can keep iterating on. You fix a few things with the game, add some art, ship that, and then just keep working on it. And at that point as well, like, I wouldn't be surprised if the progression system would be there to follow. You start off small, keep scaling this stuff up. We already had a rough idea of how that was going to go. You spoke about it in one of the other episodes, with the idea of the comic book system. You unlock the keys based on games played. All of that is just something they can ship. And I think you're good to go. I genuinely think as well, right? Like, if you wrap your head around how many people it must be that have the game wishlisted for it to be the #1 wishlisted game on Steam.
It's the second right now, apparently. I don't know what the
Really?
first one is. Yeah.
I thought it was #1. I thought it had overtaken Silksong.
It's #2 now. I don't know what it dropped down from, but #2 in the world. 284,690 followers in terms of wish list.
Well, there you go. But yeah, I think, when you think about how that is going, it's going to be massive. Like, the minute that's out on Steam and you can just click it and play it.
The influx will be crazy. The influx will be crazy.
That day is going to go nutty. Like, it's going to be absolutely unbelievable.
I'm excited for it. Definitely very excited for it. So, I do hope the open beta comes this year.
It's got to. It's got to. Yeah, I think it'd be nice as well, because it'd be a fresh influx of players. It'd give it that sort of spark again. It would be nice for newer players to have other people that don't know everything about the game to play with. It gives room for us to educate more people as well on, like, look, you can do this, you can do that. Kind of like, experiment with this stuff and keep it all going. I think it's good. But no matter what happens, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be around, I think that's a good thing, is at least with something like this, when you think about, like, the longevity and legs that CSGO had, with even how poor of a state it was when that shipped, and they had to fix basically what terrible Counter-Strike Hidden Path made it into the game it is. That lasted, 11, 12 years. Then we got CS2, still similar games, going to go on for another 10 years minimum. I think Deadlock's one of those where if this is even year 1, we're not even out yet. You're looking at a good decade of support minimum, Yeah. So it's going to be around for a while.
I think so. I don't think they're anywhere near done yet with the game. There's more to do. There's more to refine. I'm just excited for the future at the moment. Again, I think all the problems that we addressed today, which are mostly what we address every single podcast, they all have solutions for them.
They can be fixed, yeah.
The game hasn't gone in a direction yet where it feels like it's off the rails.
No.
It feels wobbly at best.
Yeah, it's not like they've just decided to give everyone random items that you just hit a key on your keyboard for. Then we'd be upset. But as it goes right now, it's in a good spot. I think the core mechanics are fun. The game's good. It's just, you can always find things to be better. And I think that's fine because it shows there's room for improvement. Usually this stuff does change. But yeah, teleporters just kind of suck. That's the sentiment of this week's episode. But yeah, I think that's basically it. I think that was a good one. There was some debate in there, some ideas, a little bit of feedback from the community, some speculation.
Some karate chops at one another. Yeah, it was good. I liked it. Yeah, like we
Nice little
said,
cheeky episode.
got any feedback or Valve, you can't be asked writing it up. Throw a couple of sentences down below. We appreciate you, as
Scroll
always.
your thoughts as best you can.
We'll try and translate.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll figure something out. And of course, remember, anytime you do comment something weird on the videos, I will kind of flame you in the podcast. That's sort of how this works. So feel free to keep that going. But that's it for another episode of the Dead Air podcast. Thank you for joining us, of course, no matter where you are. If you're driving to work, in the gym, at home, maybe playing some Deadlock, in which case we will see you next week with another installment. But that's it from myself and Blank until then. So we'll see you later.
Ta-ra.
Bye-bye. See ya.